The first time I saw her, I didn't even know her name. It was raining that late afternoon. The kind of rain that didn't just wet you, it soaked you to the bone, leaving your clothes clinging to your skin and your hair plastered to your forehead. But somehow the wetness made the world feel alive. Everything glistened, the trees, the park benches, the slick sidewalks, and for a few seconds, it almost felt like magic. I was focused on one very important task, keeping my 6-year-old son, Liam, from completely losing his mind. He had tripped on the wet pavement and fallen, scraping his knee badly enough to leave a dark red streak. He was screaming, tears streaming down his face, tiny fists clenching the muddy ground. I knelt beside him, trying to wipe away the dirt without touching the cut, all while offering what I hoped sounded like reassurance. And then I saw her. She was sitting on a bench under the small shelter near the park entrance, her sketchbook balanced on her lap, hair wet and sticking to her face, but she was smiling. That smile, the kind that was brief, effortless, and pure, made my chest tighten. She wasn't just smiling at me. She seemed to smile at everything around her. At the rain, at the puddles, at the chaos of a little boy crying. There was an ease about her, a serenity I hadn't seen in years. I wanted to speak to her. I wanted to say something intelligent, charming, or at least polite. But before I could, Liam grabbed my hand and pulled me away toward the swings. I stumbled to keep up with him, glancing back, but by the time I looked, she was gone. I didn't think much of it at first. I chalked it up to coincidence, the universe teasing me with a fleeting image I couldn't reach. But her face lingered in my mind for hours, an unexpected spark of warmth in a life I had gotten used to keeping numb. The next time I saw her was completely by accident, and in a place that made my heart pound with guilt and anxiety, the hospital. I had been rushing Liam to the emergency room after he fell off his bike that morning. He had insisted he was fine, but a small scrape on his knee had somehow turned into a massive bleeding spot that wouldn't stop. His little fingers were trembling, and he clutched my arm as though letting go would make the world collapse. I was a mess. My uniform was wet from the rain outside, my hair sticking up at odd angles, my briefcase sliding off my shoulder. I was trying to fill out admission paperwork with one hand while holding Liam with the other. The entire situation unraveling faster than I could manage. And then I heard her voice. "Do you need help?" It wasn't just the words, it was the tone, calm, steady, somehow both professional and compassionate. I looked up and my heart jumped. There she was, standing a few feet away in her scrubs, hair pulled back neatly, clipboard in hand, a small, patient smile on her lips. I think so," I said, unsure of what else to say. My throat felt tight, my brain suddenly blank. "Let's get him checked out," she said softly, kneeling to meet Liam at eye level. "What's your name, little guy?" Liam," he stammered, still sniffling. Her smile widened. "That's a strong name," she said. Strong boys bounce back faster. I wanted to tell her thank you, but I barely managed a nod before she was gently guiding Liam toward the examination room, her presence calming him in ways I couldn't. She didn't just tend to his scrapes, she asked about his favorite toys, his school, his hobbies. By the time the nurse examined him, he was laughing at some joke she made about superheroes and bandages. I stood back, heart clenching and loosening all at once, overwhelmed by the strange, unfamiliar hope her presence sparked in me. Over the next few weeks, our encounters became frequent. Not planned, not forced, but coincidental in a way that felt almost orchestrated by fate. She was always there at the hospital when Liam had appointments or follow-ups. Sometimes I would see her in the park when Liam insisted on riding his bike. We started talking. She asked about Liam's favorite snacks, the books he loved, the little quirks that made him him. I found myself lingering after appointments, watching her sketch in the corner of the waiting room, trying to catch glimpses of the woman I barely knew yet felt inexplicably drawn to. I told her small things about myself, the funny mishaps of parenting, Liam's stubbornness, my failed attempts at cooking spaghetti. She laughed, not in a mocking way, but in a way that made my chest ache with longing. And yet, I never told her my name. It wasn't because I didn't trust her. It wasn't because I didn't want her to know. It was because I had a secret, a truth I feared would make her walk away if she ever discovered it. I've been alone for so long. Ever since my wife had died in that sudden awful accident 3 years ago, I had been a fortress of duty and routine. Liam needed me, and I needed to stay strong for him. There was no room for anything else. No room for mistakes, for love, for attachment. And so, even though my heart wanted to tell her everything, I held back. One evening, as the sun was setting and casting orange light through our apartment windows, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find her standing there, holding a cup of tea in her hands, the faint scent of chamomile wafting through the air. Liam was sitting on the couch, engrossed in a superhero cartoon, oblivious to the tension building between us. "You never told me your name," she said softly, looking directly at me. Her voice was gentle, but there was a question there that I could not ignore. I froze, my chest tightened. I wanted to tell her, to shout my name across the room, to make her see me as I truly was. But the fear, the very real, suffocating fear, stopped me. I can't, I whispered, almost to myself. The words felt like chains around my chest. Her brow furrowed slightly, disappointment creeping into her warm expression. Why not? I looked away, embarrassed and ashamed. "I'm just a dad," I said, the words tasting bitter. "A single dad. That's all you need to know." There was a pause. She didn't speak, just looked at me, waiting, patient, calm, understanding in a way that made me hate myself for hiding the truth. I'm complicated," I said finally. "Life is messy. I don't want to drag anyone into that mess." Her lips pressed into a thin line, not angry, just sad, maybe even frustrated. I could see it in the tilt of her head, the slight tightening around her eyes. I felt guilt knotting in my stomach, heavy and unrelenting. That night, after she left, I sat in the dark apartment with Liam asleep in his bed, and I thought about what I had done. Not just what I hadn't told her, but what I hadn't allowed. Myself, a chance at connection. A chance at something beautiful. I thought about her smile, the way she seemed to see the good in people even when they were messy, flawed, broken, and I wondered if I would ever be brave enough to let her in. The days that followed were quiet but charged. I found myself noticing her in little ways, how she'd tuck her hair behind her ear when concentrating, how her eyes crinkled at the corners when she laughed, how she always asked about Liam first, never me. I wanted to call her, to text her, to say something, anything. But I didn't. I stayed hidden behind my fears, convinced that if she knew the truth, the depth of my grief, the constant ache of loss, the weight of being a single dad raising a little boy alone, she would leave. And yet, every time I saw her, every time she smiled at Liam, I felt something I hadn't in years. Hope that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to open my heart. The next morning, the note was there, slipped under my apartment door like it had been waiting for me. "If you trust me enough to let me in, I'll be here." I stared at the paper for a long time, my heart thudding against my ribs. Part of me wanted to crumple it up and throw it away, to pretend it never existed. The other part, the part that had been aching for weeks, wanted to rip the door open, run into the rain, and tell her everything. I knew I couldn't just run. Liam was at school, practicing spelling tests and hiding from me when I tried to wake him for breakfast. I didn't have time for grand gestures. But maybe, just maybe, I could meet her somewhere neutral, somewhere public, somewhere safe. By mid-afternoon, I found myself at the small park where I had first noticed her months ago. The rain had stopped, leaving everything washed clean, the earth smelling like wet grass and fresh beginnings. The swings creaked gently in the breeze, and a few children chased each other through the puddles, laughing. And there she was, sitting on the same bench I remembered, sketchbook open, pencil moving across the page. When she looked up and saw me, her eyes softened, and she smiled, the same smile I had never been able to get. I swallowed hard. My palms were clammy. My chest felt tight. I hadn't planned this. I hadn't rehearsed it. And yet I knew the moment had come. She folded her sketchbook and set it on her lap, her gaze steady. "So," she said quietly, almost casually, "why did you leave without your name?" I froze. Her question hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd rehearsed this. Conversation in my head countless times, but now, standing in front of her, words abandoned me. I wanted to run, I wanted to hide, but I couldn't not anymore. Not if I wanted to live a life that didn't revolve entirely around fear and regret. I started, but the words caught in my throat. I took a shaky breath, then another. I left because I was afraid. Her eyes didn't blink. They didn't waver. They just held mine, silently coaxing me to continue. I lost my wife, I said finally, the words coming out in a rush, jagged and raw. 3 years ago, a car accident. It was sudden. She was everything, and one moment she was there, and the next, she was gone, and I was left with Liam, alone. Her hand moved slightly, almost imperceptibly, as if reaching for mine without touching. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "I can't imagine." "You don't have to imagine," I interrupted, my voice rising with emotion. "Because if you did, you'd see the mess. The constant fear, the guilt, the way I wake up every morning and feel like I'm failing him, like I'm failing myself. And I couldn't let anyone else in. I thought that if I didn't give you my name, if I didn't let you know me, maybe you wouldn't get hurt. Maybe I could protect you both from me. But—" My throat tightened, and I struggled to keep speaking. "But every time I saw you, I wanted to tell you. Every time I saw you, I felt alive again. And I was terrified of losing that too." She reached out and placed her hand gently over mine. Her fingers were warm, firm, grounding. "You didn't leave because you didn't care," she said softly. "You left because you loved too much already and you were afraid it would hurt again. That's human. That's real." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I felt tears sting the corners of my eyes. I wanted to tell her everything, my fears, my loneliness, the nights I spent lying awake listening to Liam breathe, wondering if I was doing enough, if I was failing him. But I didn't, not yet. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in years. I breathed. I let the tension in my shoulders ease slightly. I let myself trust, even for a moment. I didn't think anyone could forgive someone like me. I whispered, almost ashamed. Her smile was gentle but knowing. "I'm not here to forgive you," she said. "I'm here to know you, all of you." I blinked, caught off guard. That simple statement, her willingness to see me as a whole person, flawed and scared, made my chest ache. It made me feel something I hadn't felt since the accident. Hope. We sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that wasn't awkward but intimate, the kind that allowed understanding to grow without words. Liam ran past us, chasing a puddle with his small rubber boots, shouting with glee. I watched him, the boy who had kept me tethered to life, who had been my anchor and my reason for every cautious step. And I realized something. I could do this. I could let someone in. Over the next few weeks, our connection deepened. I introduced her to Liam in small, careful ways. At first, it was simple, bringing her drawings to show her, asking her to help with little homework questions, sharing small victories from school. Liam, shy at first, warmed up quickly. He loved her calm presence, the way she laughed at his jokes, the way she made him feel important. I, too, found myself opening up more than I had in years. We met at the hospital, yes, but also at the park, at the library, even at the corner cafe where Liam insisted on chocolate milk every Friday. We talked about everything and nothing: books we loved, music we secretly enjoyed, the absurdities of daily life. Slowly, carefully, the walls I had built around my heart began to crumble. One rainy afternoon, I brought Liam to the park again, carrying a bag of snacks and an umbrella that barely kept us dry. She was already there, sketching under the shelter, and when she looked up and saw us, she smiled. That smile, gentle, patient, understanding, made my chest ache in a familiar, dangerous way. "Hey, you two," she said warmly. "Hi," Liam shouted, running toward her. "Look what I drew." He held up a messy but enthusiastic crayon drawing of a superhero rescue. She laughed, genuine and bright, crouching to look at it. "This is amazing." "Who is this hero?" "Me," Liam declared proudly. "Saving people from puddles." Her laugh warmed me more than I expected. I felt a tightness in my chest, a mix of awe and fear. I wanted this life, this connection, but I was terrified of losing it. That evening, After Liam was asleep, she stayed longer than usual. We talked quietly in the living room, the rain capping against the windows. I know it's hard, she said softly. To trust again, to let someone in. I'm afraid, I admitted, my voice trembling. Afraid of failing him. Afraid of losing anyone else. Afraid that this, whatever this is between us, might not survive me. She reached across the couch and took my hand, holding it firmly but gently. Fear doesn't define you, she said. It's what you do after the fear that matters. And you chose to sit here and let me in. I swallowed, feeling. Tears threatened to spill. I don't want to hurt you, I said, voice barely above a whisper. You won't? She said simply. I see you, all of you, and I want to be here. If you'll let me. Her words, simple and direct, made me realize something crucial. Honesty and trust weren't weaknesses, they were bridges. And for the first time in years, I wanted to cross that bridge. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day. She was patient, understanding, never pushing, never rushing. She let Liam teach her, let me show her our world in small, chaotic increments. And I, in turn, let myself dream. Dream of a life that didn't feel like survival, but like living. Dream of evenings where laughter and warmth replaced fear and silence. One Sunday, we took Liam to the zoo. I watched from a bench as she crouched beside him, explaining the difference between a cheetah and a leopard. Liam's eyes sparkled with excitement, and for a moment, I thought about the life I had been afraid to live, the life I had almost walked away from without a second thought. And that's when I understood fully. Leaving without my name had been a mistake, yes. But it had also brought me to this moment, to a chance to be brave, to choose connection over fear, honesty over hiding. She glanced at me and smiled, her eyes soft, full of trust and expectation. I smiled back, my chest tight with emotion, feeling, for the first time in years, that maybe, just maybe, I was ready to let someone in completely. Months had passed since that afternoon in the park, the afternoon where I finally let her see the truth of who I was. Life had changed, subtly at first, then all at once. The gray weight of grief that had been my constant companion began to lighten, replaced by something new, hope. And it wasn't just mine. Liam's laughter had grown richer, his smile brighter, and our apartment felt less like a shelter from the world and more like a home. It wasn't perfect, life rarely is. There were still mornings when Liam refused to get dressed, when bills stacked on the counter and my mind raced with worries about work and parenting. There were still nights when I woke in a cold sweat, thinking about my wife and the emptiness that had lingered for so long. But there was also her, patiently sitting beside us through the chaos, her presence a balm to the anxiety that used to dominate my life. We had made a rhythm, weekends at the park, homework help and sketching afternoons, late night talks where she encouraged me to dream, to see life not as a series of tragedies to survive, but as moments to be savored. And gradually I started letting myself believe in the possibility of something more than mere survival. One Saturday morning, we decided to go to the zoo. Liam had been buzzing with excitement all week, insisting that we see every animal, feed the monkeys, and take at least 50 pictures. I packed a small bag with snacks, extra clothes, and Liam's little stuffed raccoon, and we set off. As soon as we arrived, Liam bolted toward the monkey enclosure, chattering nonstop. She crouched beside him, explaining the differences between the monkeys, pointing out their playful antics. I watched from a bench, my heart full in a way I hadn't thought possible, feeling gratitude so deep it almost hurt. I thought about how far we'd come from strangers in the rain to this moment where the three of us shared laughter, curiosity, and a fragile growing trust. I realized then that letting her into my life hadn't just been brave. It had been necessary. Without her, I might still be surviving. With her, I was living. As the afternoon sunlight began to fade, painting the zoo in warm gold and orange hues, I noticed her pause near the flamingo pond. She was sketching again, her pencil moving quickly, capturing the elegance of the birds. Liam ran over, calling for her attention, and she smiled, closing the sketchbook. You're getting really good at this, Liam said proudly. Not as good as you, she teased, ruffling his hair. You're the real artist here. Her warmth, the ease of her interactions with him, filled me with a quiet awe. I could see the bond forming between them, the trust, the laughter, the tiny rituals that made life feel whole. And then it hit me. She wasn't just a visitor in our lives anymore. She was becoming part of it. That evening, back at the apartment, I cooked dinner, a modest attempt at spaghetti with meatballs, which Liam insisted on helping with, despite making a mess that would have terrified my late wife. She laughed at the chaos, wiping sauce off Liam's face with gentle patience. "You two are a disaster," she said, grinning, "but the kind I like." I smiled, feeling a surge of warmth that made my chest ache. "I'm just glad you're here," I admitted. She looked at me then, her expression softening. "I'm glad I stayed." And in that simple exchange, I realized how far I had come. From hiding, from fearing loss, from leaving without a name, to letting someone truly see me, flaws and all, weeks turned into months. We established routines, shared small victories, and began dreaming together. Liam thrived in this new, safe environment, and I began to feel the heavy weight of grief lighten further, replaced by a cautious optimism I hadn't known I could feel. One night, as snow began to fall softly outside, Liam had gone to bed early after a long day of sledding and laughter. We sat by the window, cups of tea warming our hands, watching the flakes drift lazily to the ground. "I've never done this before," I confessed, my voice low. "I've never let myself imagine a life like this." She reached out, taking my hand and squeezed gently. "I know," she said, "but you deserve it." Her words made tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "I'm afraid," I admitted. "Afraid that something will happen, that I'll lose it all again, that I'll fail Liam, fail us." "You won't," she said softly. "Fear doesn't define you. What defines you is how you choose to act despite it. And every day you show up, you protect him. You love him, you've done more than enough." I felt a wave of gratitude and relief, the tension I had carried for years beginning to lift. In her eyes, I saw acceptance, not judgment, not pity, just understanding and patience. And for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. The snow continued through the night, and by morning the city was blanketed in white. Liam rushed to the window, his face pressed against the glass, pointing at every flake that fell. She joined him, kneeling beside him, and I watched, quietly overwhelmed by the sense of family forming in front of me. Later that day we decided to go for a walk, the snow crunching under our boots, the world transformed into a quiet wonderland. Liam ran ahead, his laughter echoing between the buildings, and I walked beside her, feeling the warmth of her hands slip into mine naturally, without hesitation. "You know," she said, glancing at me, "I don't need a perfect life. I just need honesty, and you've been brave enough to give me that." I swallowed hard, emotions threatening to spill over. "I almost didn't," I admitted. "I almost ran away again." "Because of fear," she said, nodding. "But fear doesn't define us. What we choose after fear, that's who we are." I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone I could love, someone I could trust with the pieces of myself I had hidden for so long. I thought about my wife, about the life I had lost, and about the one I could still build. And for the first time, the thought of the future didn't terrify me, it inspired me. That evening, as we returned home, Liam ran ahead to the couch, already pulling out crayons and paper. She sat beside me in the living room, leaning against my shoulder, and we watched him draw, laugh, and tell stories with an innocence I hadn't realized I'd missed so desperately. "I think he likes you," I said softly, more to myself than to her. She laughed, nudging me gently. "I like him." "And I like you." I felt my chest tighten, a mix of joy and disbelief. "I like you too," I admitted, my voice steady despite the surge of emotion. Her hand found mine again, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. Not the past, not the grief, not the fear. Only the three of us, together in this imperfect, chaotic, beautiful life we were building. Weeks passed, and the bond between us only strengthened. She became an integral part of our daily lives, not just as a friend or a presence, but as someone who mattered deeply to both Liam and me. We celebrated small victories together, Liam's first soccer goal, my promotion at work, and even minor household triumphs like assembling IKEA furniture without swearing too much. Each moment felt monumental because it was shared. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting gold across the living room, I found myself alone with her while Liam played outside with the neighbor kids. I felt a nervous flutter, something I hadn't experienced in years. "I've been thinking," I said cautiously, "about us, about everything." She tilted her head, curious. "What about everything?" "About how I almost ran away," I admitted, "and how I didn't, and how I want this us, him, all of it to last. Not because I need it, but because I choose it every day." Her eyes softened and she took both my hands in hers. "Then we'll make it last," she said. "Together." And in that moment I realized that leaving without my name all those months ago had led me here not to regret, not to loneliness, but to love, trust, and family. I had almost missed it because of fear, because of grief, because of the scars I carried, but I hadn't. I had chosen honesty, and it had brought me everything I hadn't dared to hope for. That night, as Liam slept soundly between us, I held her hand and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." She smiled, pressing her forehead to mine. "Thank you for letting me." For the first time in years, I truly believed in tomorrow. And when morning came, we faced it together, the three of us, ready for whatever life would throw our way, bound by trust, love, and the courage to embrace a new beginning.